conflict more important than the external conflict?
For me, I was more miserable trying to make everyone else happy than I am now with everyone else unhappy with me. And so I think like from the social group that I had before I quit my job, if we're going all the way like ground zero to today, I talked to no one from that time in my life compared to today. And I was absolutely miserable and unhappy and unfulfilled. And I would say that the majority of those people probably don't like me today because I changed. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. He thinks he's so fancy now, et cetera, et cetera. And I think I'm just okay with that. And so I think coming to terms with the idea that I could be absolutely rejected by everyone I know, but like me, I was more okay with that because the alternative was I didn't want to live anymore. And so obviously there's degrees and there's continuums and there's stages of where people are at with that. But as that being the taken to its logical extreme, would I rather live for them than live for me? I would rather be hated by everyone and like myself.
There's a degree of honesty is the right word, but it's also too simple. Like being completely 100% truthful with yourself. If that's the way, this is why, have I told you about the motocross, the rallycross thing that me and my housemate love?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so you know like Colin McRae, these guys that drive four-wheel, there's the dude in the co-pilot seat and it's 5 left bend, like all that shit. These guys that go and watch this are in the middle of some fucking wood in Ayrshire, right, in Scotland, and it's pissing wet and it's November and they've got a poncho on and they get to drive for however long to get to this place. You can even see, thinking about it, the hairs on my arms are standing up. This is how fucking dope it is. So these guys are there and they see some dude in overcast rain, freezing cold, soaking wet, go, and then they turn to all of their boys and they're like, ah! Yeah. Watching someone who loves anything with that much purity fires me up. Yeah. It fires me up. Like we love watching, we don't watch it for what the cars are doing. Yeah. We watch it for what it does to the spectators. And that degree of like just unencumbered passion. Yeah. Not being apologetic. Like they're probably wearing comfy shit. They're not wearing cowboy boots. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? No one, they look like a large condom in this poncho. Do they care? Right. They don't care. Yeah. And that's purity. Yeah. That's truthfulness and honesty. And really, like what are you hoping to be able to look back on your life or for people to say after you're gone if you don't do that? He was such a good guy and he never rocked the boat. Yeah. He was such a good guy and he always conformed to our expectations. He was such a good guy and he was so predictable. Right. Like people think, and I did throughout a lot of my 20s, I thought that what people wanted from me was someone that they could easily predict. But I realized when I thought about the people that I loved in my life, I didn't love them because of how predictable they were. Yeah. I loved them because of how unapologetically themselves they were. I have a friend who nearly ended a relationship that he's still with, the love of his life, who's probably going to end up marrying, because he refused to not sleep on the floor for 6 months as part of Alex Becker's doing it at the moment. Yeah. Like, he's like, sleeping on the floor seems to be like a pretty dialed idea. And she's like, I'm not sleeping on the floor. Well, I am. So they didn't sleep together for for like a long time. Yeah. Like those are the people that you love. And those are the people that you can, because they pay such a high price to do that. Yeah. You can be very reliable at presuming that they mean what they're saying. Because if they didn't really mean what they're saying, they would conform, they would take an easier path.
I love all of that. I was trying to kind of consolidate it for myself and the listeners. For me, it comes down to truly valuing your opinion of yourself more than other people's opinion of you. And it's an easy thing to say, and it's incredibly hard to do, because that means that if you disagree with everyone else in the room, there's this meme that I love. I don't know if you've seen it. There's this little cartoon of this one little guy, and then there's like an ocean of people that way, and it just says, yes, you're all wrong. And I just like, I feel like that meme, Trevor Cashy, my brother and editor in the books in the battle against nihilism and towards truth. We send that meme back and forth to one another when we're like, yes, everyone is wrong about this word. Like, we are right. And I think it's just being willing to but the only way you can believe in a thing or an idea or even yourself is because you have the evidence behind you that supports that your belief isn't full of shit. So that when you're in that room and you come up with that one number and you say, I think everyone's wrong. I think this is actually what it's worth. You're not just making it up to say you believe something different. You actually have proof and evidence that you're not full of shit. And I think that's the work is like, I looked into a lot of the stuff on the floor sleeping. I think it checks out. I'm going to do it. Like,
I think everyone else is wrong.
I think everyone else is wrong. And everyone's like, you're an idiot. And you're like, I think you're wrong. And that's okay. You know what I mean? And it's just, most people can't do that. Just the idea of being weird is too much. Like, just like,
did you ever, this is quite old now. It's at least a decade old. I think it's called 50 Days of Rejection or 100 Days of Rejection.
I love it already.
So it's a series of experiments that you do every day for 100 days.
Yeah.
And there's a different one each day. And one of them is ask for a free coffee when you go to Starbucks.
Oh, I love it.
Just say, hey, can I have this for free?
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it escalates over time, but there's like weird stuff, things that you do to people in public, things that blah, blah, blah. And it's trying to overcome that. Like, it's in your throat, when you feel that and your cheeks get flush and everything kind of gets hot.
Get embarrassed.
Around here. Yeah, it's that embarrassment. It's that shame. It's that, well, what if they think?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What if they think what?
Yeah.
So yeah, someone should redo that. It's like a decade old now, but someone should redo. I think I'm certain it's called 100 Days of Rejection.
Good YouTube idea.
That would be a great YouTube idea to do 100 Days of Rejection or whatever it is. All right, next one.
No one's effing coming to save you. No one's going to make you better at your business. No one is going to get you to be a better persuader of people or framer of people other than you. What would you say to someone who's still living in that delusion?
Wake up.
The thing is it doesn't actually matter if it is your fault, but it is your problem. You have to solve it because no one else will. That allows you to actually do something about it. If you make 100 cold calls, whether you hate it or you love it or you're meant for it, you make the calls and you practice the script, you'll get business. You can also get business and make money even if you don't deserve it. But the idea that I could still have it anyways and not deserve it if I only did the things that got it was like, it was kind of like in the weightlifting world that the iron is the iron. Whether you're black, you're white, you're a woman, 500 pounds is 500 pounds. Like, the actions that create success are kind of the same way. Anyone can do the thing and get the result no matter how they feel about themselves. And I think that's really freeing. The Rocky cutscene lasts 2 minutes in the movie, but it can last 5 years in real life. There is no background music. There's no audience waiting to cheer for you, and you don't know that you're going to beat Apollo Creed. So you're in it for 5 years, and I think the hard part of entrepreneurship is the uncertainty that you don't know if it's going to work out. But taking to the other natural extreme, if you did know and you were guaranteed that it was going to work, it wouldn't be worth it. We want a guarantee from a world that doesn't give any. And the fact that it doesn't give a guarantee is what makes it worth it. To the person who is still, plugged in and waiting for someone to save them, someone will save you, but it's you. Future you, the better you, the person that you've been waiting to become.
It's not good, it's outstanding, it's truth. Hey, it's Ed, my lad. I just wanted to thank you for being here, and I would ask you to please subscribe to the show. If you just click the subscribe button here, I would really appreciate it. It helps the show grow so we can get even more successful guests on the program to help you. At the same time, if you're subscribed, you're going to get access to the programs before anybody else in the world gets access to them. So if you would, click subscribe right here. Thanks so much. Welcome back, everybody. This person sitting across from me, he's been on the show before. You guys all went nuts when he was on, but I got to tell you, he's probably the person whose content I share the most on the planet because I think it's that good. I really, really like a lot of people in the business space. I admire and listen to very few. And he has risen up the list for me of the people that I admire and I listen to the most because his content is so good, his message is so good because it's based in actual results and actual experience. My guest today is Alex Hormozi. Welcome back, brother.
Thank you for having me, and such a gracious introduction. Just to apologize ahead of time to the audience, there's no way I will live up to that, but I'll do my absolute hardest. I'll try my hardest.
He will. 15 minutes in, he will have exceeded it. By the way, he's got a new book out called $100 Million Leads, How to Get Strangers to Want to Buy Your Stuff. And I think it's the book launch, I told you this off camera, I've heard the most about ever. He had a few people participate in it. How many did you have? Tell him.
Yeah, we had 500,000 people who signed up for the event. We had just under 200,000 who clicked to join live. The moment we launched, it was wild. It was a whole city.
And I said to him, I said, well, how'd you do it? He go, actually, I did the stuff in the book.
Yeah.
Give us a couple specifics of what that means.
I'm going to give a little bit more context, and I'll give the better answer. So $100 Million Offers, which is my first book, was an offer about making a proposition to somebody that they would say yes to. So how to make offers so good people feel stupid saying no. And the first question that you need to answer when you're an entrepreneur is, what do I sell? Right? And so you make an offer, and that's why that was the first book. And so the offer book itself was what I would consider a meta book, as in it both... The goal was that I demonstrate the concept while also teaching about it in the book. And so the book itself, I premiered it for $1.99, and it came with a course that most people would charge $5,000 for, and I gave that away for free and did no paid advertising whatsoever. And it continues to sell 25,000, 30,000 copies a month. This month, obviously, way more than that because of the launch and whatnot. But it does more every month than it did the month before, and it's still top 100 2 years later. Now, the next book answers the next question. So once you have something to sell, then you're like, well, who do I sell it to?
Yeah.
And so you need leads. And so that was why the second book is $100 Million Leads. And so leads mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But most people agree that they're the first thing that you need to have to get new customers.
Hello. Right.
And so the thing that creates a lead, and when I was trying to go through this book, I was like, what is a lead? And so I had a buddy of mine ask me that question, and I stumbled. I was like, a lead. And he was like, no, what's a lead? And so I was like, it's someone that you get name, phone number, email address. And he's like, okay, if someone follows you on Instagram and you can message them, are they a lead? I was like, well, yeah, I guess they would be a lead. He's like, okay, well, if I subscribe to your YouTube, am I a lead then? I was like, no, I guess not. It wouldn't be because I can't contact you in any way. And so we started going through all these things. If I knock on someone's door, are they a lead, right? And so we started going through it. And so we come up with a lead is a person you can contact.
Okay.
Now, from there, you're like, well, there's a lot of people I can contact, which then gave me the conclusion that what people say they want is leads, but what they really want are engaged leads, which is a person you can contact, who's shown interested in the stuff you sell.
So would you call it qualified lead?
That would be the next level.
Okay.
So yeah, if you're looking on the lead continuum, you've got unengaged lead, engaged lead, a qualified lead, and then you go into customer and whatnot. And so, then the question is, how do you go from an unengaged lead to an engaged lead? And that one flip, just from there to there, is the entire book. After that point where someone raises their hand and says, I'm interested in your stuff, that is where the book ends. Okay. And so I wanted to show people how to get strangers to want to buy their stuff, not to buy it because that would be sales, but how to want to buy their stuff. And so in going through this, we made 2 4-boxes, and this took
it's awesome
100 iterations to get here.
I was looking at it again last night. It's awesome.
It was really hard, as crazy as it sounds, because I came into it with a lot of the preconceived. I was like, what about earned media? What about owned media? Like I had all these, and I had to deconstruct everything into simply, you can talk to people one-on-one, and you can talk to people one-to-many. And there are people who know who you are before you talk to them, and there are people who don't. And those are the 4 variables. So if you're one-to-one to friendlies, that's a warm reach out. If you're one-to-one to strangers, it's a cold reach out. If you're one-to-many to friends, it's when you post content. It's to your audience who knows you. And if you're doing one-to-many to people who don't know you, it's paid ads.
Gosh, that's good. Okay.
And so those are the only 4 ways that a person can let other people know about stuff. Anything at all. Like if a girl's like, I just slept with 6 guys, she's advertising what she did. She let people know about it, right? And so advertising is the process of making known. That's how we define it. And so then you're like, well, if those are the only 4 things that I can do to let other people know about stuff, are those the only 4 ways to advertise? And so the answer is kind of like yes and no, because the other 4 are what I call lead getters. And so lead getters are people who let other people know on your behalf.
Yes.
And so they are where you get the greatest amount of leverage in advertising. Because, for example, if I were to say, okay, I'm going to hire a recruiter who brings me affiliates every month. And so I hire one person. So I do whatever amount of work it takes me to hire one person. And then I go and I sip Mai Tais on the beach, which we know that's not true, but just for the example. Now that person works every hour of every day bringing affiliates in. And then those affiliates, then either they do one of the core 4. They reach out to their friends, they reach out to strangers, they post content, or they make ads to their audience to tell them about my stuff.
Okay.
For money, free stuff, or both. That's the incentive. And so that is an example of a lead getter and how one day's work might create zillions of dollars on the back end by just having leverage, getting more for what I put in. And so there are 4. The first is customers. So you do the core 4.
So I was going to ask you.
Yeah, you do the core 4 to get a customer.
Yep.
Now that customer can then do the core 4 again to get you other customers.
Do you feel that there's a priority among others? In other words, when you were saying it, I'm like, customer might be the best one.
Oh, yeah. For sure. The reason I would say customer is more important isn't as much about the customer, but about what would make a customer want to refer is typically an exceptional product. And so if you have a better product, like you can incentivize any affiliate if you
Better
put it
product
enough
or better
money.
experience.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
So I'll quickly go through the 4 lead getters and then I'll explain the whole cycle in total. So you have customers, you have affiliates, which I talked about just a second ago, which looks like a customer referral, but it's a little different because it's another business who refers their customers to you. You've got agencies who can do the core 4 on your behalf. They can run ads, they can post content, they can do outreach all for you because there are agencies who do all those things. And then you have employees. So like I don't make my content. I have a team of people who make content for me. And so you can see how the first 4 things are the only things a human can do to let other people know about stuff, to advertise. The other 4 are the people you get from advertising who can then do the advertising on your behalf. And so the long-winded answer for like, how did I get 500,000 people there is that I purposefully took the 24 months leading up to that, because once offers launched, everything was about leads. So I knew that, the audience didn't know that, but everything that I was doing was knowing that in 24 months I was going to have my next book come out. And so I wanted to use every tactic or method in the book to advertise the book. So that's the whole meta concept. The first one was I had to make a meta offer. Like the book itself was an amazing offer, so good people feel stupid at saying no. And then $100 million leads, I wanted to get as many strangers to want to buy my stuff using warm outreach, cold outreach, posting content, running paid ads, getting customer.
Slaves worked all the hours they were awake for their entire lives. In American history, in Egyptian history, in the rest of the world that had slaves, which is most of the world at some given point. I think like if they can do it, so can I. Now you're like, well, did they have a happy existence? Well, they didn't get to pick the work they did, but it means that you can work. That's if you have the cap behind you. You can work every hour of the day. I'm like, well, if you get to have the cheese and you get to eat the cheese the whole way you're going, then, I mean, there's the famous quote, the person who loves walking walks further than the person who loves the destination, right? And so like, I think it's the same thing, but so many people want to project their idea of what they think your life should be like onto you. And it's just completely irrelevant. It just doesn't matter. Like if I weren't married, right? Because people are like, okay, well, he is married and like I am in shape, but I also just like working out. But if I didn't have either of those things and all I did was work all day, more people would talk about the work-life balance thing for me than they currently do. And who cares? I fundamentally am like, you are going to die and you're not going to matter. And I'm going to die and I'm not going to matter. So why do I care about what you're going to say when you're not even going to show up to my funeral? Who gives a shit?
What is it that you're taking an enjoyment from then? The one step deeper than this, there is something that you're optimizing for.
Oh, I love the reward.
What reward?
The micro rewards I get every day. Like
of operating a business.
Of all things business related.
Yep.
So I love writing the book about business. I love talking to my editor about what we're changing. Oh, that's a really way better way to say it, right? Or I like tweeting about the thoughts that we have. I love doing discussions like this because I talk about my favorite topic, which is business for the most part. And I actually am pretty averse to punishment. I've learned that about me. Like, I do not like it. And when I say punishment in the formal sense, like things you don't like, right? And so like I avoid them like the plague. I don't do them. And so I just do as many of the things I can that reward me as frequently as possible.
But from the outside to a lot of people, that looks like punishment.
Right. Yes.
Interesting. How can someone cut through societal expectations, the ways they've dealt with past trauma, expectations from parents, all of the things that aren't their thing?
Yeah.
How can somebody, because what you've done, again, axiomatically, a priori, this is the thing I want to optimize for. How do people find the thing that they want to optimize for? I don't have a thing. Alex, that's fucking great for you with your business. It just happens to be something else that's at the intersection of making a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
How do I find
And
my
I was
thing?
lucky. with
Yes.
that.
Yes.
That just happened to be the intersection. Because if I love knitting and I didn't like business,
Yes.
that's a whole separate, because like you can turn knitting into a business, but like if I only like knitting, then there's a way to make a living from that. But to get to the person who's like, how do I find my thing? I'm a big fan of being directionally correct rather than absolutely correct. And so I think what happens is most people are trying to find the perfect answer when they have no perspective from which to make a judgment. They're trying to find the perfect thing to do when they haven't done anything. So how would you have perspective to make a judgment? Like if you try a lot of things in the beginning, which you have to know what your inputs, outputs are, decrease your action threshold enough with either a cheese or a cat, whatever you need. Most people have more cats than they have cheese in the beginning. So use the cat to start running towards something. And the thing is the rat, it's so simple. It's like there's cheese here. But what you really just need to know is that there's cheese out there. And there's a cat behind me for sure. And so if I just go anywhere away from the cat, I will have a higher likelihood of getting closer to the cheese. Not that I will find it, but I will get closer to it. And I think and I've lived my life through a series of rapid iterations, not trying to pick the right thing. Because I just like, even when I started my first business, I was between frozen yogurt, test prep, and a gym. Those are the three businesses that I was choosing between.
Makes complete sense, yeah.
Right? A lot of things that I like, right? And so I was choosing between those things. And like, why were those the things? I was like, well, I was pretty good at taking tests in college. So I get that. I like frozen yogurt. And I mean, it sounds simple, but like, I was like, everybody likes something, right? And I actually didn't know that I was going to like business. That's the crazy thing. Because also, when you and I were younger, Instagram wasn't there. Like none of this shit existed. And entrepreneurship wasn't cool yet. And so I just hated my job a lot. And I hated where I lived a lot. And so I was like, well, I will just not be here. So don't know what city I'm going to go to, but just not this city.
Yep.
I went across the furthest place from Baltimore, which is California. And then I was like, okay, well, what do I hate doing? Well, let me not do that, which is, sitting on meetings all day and doing whatever, doing grunt work for shit that I felt like was meaningless. And instead, I was like, I'll do fitness because I like fitness. And I was like, at the very least, I'll do something I enjoy, which I liked fitness at the time. And if you're like, well, I don't like doing anything. Well, it's like, well, then that's impossible because your brain is wired to be rewarded for things. And so you are doing things that reward you. That's why you do them. Like everything we do is because we've been rewarded for doing things like that in the past. And we project the same activities and we predict that doing things like we did in the past that reward us will reward us again in the future. That's where our behavior comes from. And so it's like, okay, well, what has rewarded you in the past? Where's the cat? Go the opposite way.
Yeah. So the reverse role model is something similar, but you're almost taking this into a lifestyle perspective. So the reverse role model is if you live in a town or you grow up somewhere and there's no one around you like the sort of person that you want to be like, but there are tons of people like the person you don't want to be like, you can say, there's a waymarker. I don't want his relationship with gambling. I don't want the way that he handles his finances. I don't want the way that him and his wife communicate with each other. It's like, okay, there we go. Warren Buffett or Munger says like an amazing amount of success has been achieved by not trying to be smart but avoiding being stupid. So there's your waymarkers there. But what you're saying is that this is almost like
How to sell the same thing for more money by making offers so good, people feel stupid saying no. The agenda. Number 1, why nailing your offer will make you more money than anything else. Number 2, why selling to the right people makes you more money. More than almost anything else too. Number 3, why you should charge lots of money for the stuff you sell. Number 4, how to reverse engineer value. And number 5, I have a pretty sweet demonstration that I'll do for you guys. How to use scarcity urgency guarantees to make people want it even more and charge more. More, double more. More money good. All right, so let's start here. Why nailing your offer will make you more money than anything else. So this is my my big aha moment. So this is me when I was 23. Just signed my lease, super excited. Arms look better there than they do now, but it's all good. And had no idea what I was doing. I'd never sold anything. I'd never marketed, never gotten leads. I had no clue what I was doing. And so I spent $3,000 of money that I didn't have, only at $10,000 at the time. So I spent a third of my net worth on a workshop that's supposed to be a 2-day workshop that was going to teach me how to get leads. And it was this brand new thing that was on the internet. It was called Facebook ads. It was 2013. I was super early. This is where luck plays a role. So I went to this workshop, and I was there. I didn't have a real business yet because I wasn't even open. And the guy pulls me aside, and he could see that I had no fucking clue what I was doing. I was like trying to take notes, but didn't even have context to take notes with. And he's like, hey, you want to know the secret to sales? That's my faint Australian accent. He said, make people an offer so good they feel stupid saying no. And that was actually the first thing that anyone had ever told me about selling. And so it changed my life, and so I try to tell as many people as I can. Because if you get that part right, everything else is easy. And I was very fortunate in that I had somebody very early on who told me that. And so I tried to tell it to as many people as I can, as loudly as I can. Made a whole fucking book about it. And so I realized in that moment that I didn't need to be good at sales, good at marketing, or really good at anything, because I wasn't at the time. I just had to make my offer good enough. And that was when the greatest game of my life began. And so for those of you who don't know, an offer is what you literally give someone in exchange for money. All right? There's the product, that's the stuff. The market is the people's, and the offer is the thing that bridges those two. All right? And so it packages and communicates what you do in exchange for the dollars. A shitty offer weakly connects to the market. Very little flow, very shitty. Or, for some of you, if you haven't made sales yet, that might be your problem as well. So here's how you know if you have a shitty offer. Number one, it's hard to get leads. Number two, most people don't want to buy. Number three, if they do want to buy, they compare your prices to someone else. No bueno. And here's why. What many people do is they try and create an also ran, right? And what ends up happening is that the prospect makes a price-driven decision rather than a value-driven decision. And so they think to themselves, these two things are the same, I will therefore take the lower price, right? And so we have to fight very hard, or very intelligently, on how to break that cycle, all right? And so this is what it looks like when it's wrong. These two are close enough, I think I'll get the cheaper one. Very sad for all of us. A strong offer connects with a big part of the market so that you make more monies. So here, if you make, and I'm going to show you a cool demonstration at the end of this, but if you can make an offer that the entire niche that you're going after is like, I fucking need this, then you're going to have a lot easier time getting leads, a lot easier time selling, and a lot of times it's doing more work than your competitors are willing to do. And that is what's going to shift people to a value-driven decision, which is, I really want this thing, gosh, it's expensive, but I don't think anyone else could do it. That's where you want to be, because then you can make up your prices. Great place to be in. And the reason it's so important for making money is that when you get this right, number one, you increase response rates on all of your advertisements in whatever way you advertise. And when I say advertise, I mean to make things known. Number two, increase conversion, so think sales. So more people that you talk to will say yes to you if the offer is right. Number three, premium pricing, which means not only will you have more people respond to your ads, and more people say yes, but they'll say yes at higher prices. And when you have more, you make more money. So, right now, my current return on advertising in my career is 36-1. That's not a typo. Our portfolio as a whole generates over $200 million a year, and a big part of that is nailing the offer. And so nailing the offer is the single strongest lever on your business success. So let me just show you how much. So this was a traditional agency offer that we worked on ages ago. But we just changed one thing about the business model, just the offer. We didn't change any of the mechanics in the business. What they actually did, nothing. We just changed the offer. So what they used to do is they were a generic Facebook ads agency. Who here knows what I'm talking about with that? Anybody? Yes? Okay. You know these ones? Everybody has one. Your mom has one. Your mom's basement has a kid in it who also does it too, right? 1,000 down, 1,000 a month. I'll run your ads for you, right? There you go. We were doing Facebook ads. You get leads maybe you don't. You pay us just the same. Pretty generic, pretty shitty offer. And so this is what their actual return on advertising was for their advertising spend. So they're spending $10,000 a month. They reach 300,000 people. The response rate between impressions to people who click. They got 40 book calls from that. Short was 75%. Appointments who showed was 30. Closing was 16%. Closed 5. Price point was 1,000. So they spent 10. They made 5. So they're making 0.5 to 1, kind of shitty. But 30 days later, they're at 1 to 1, and then so forth, right? It's pretty normal, and this is actually pretty common in a lot of businesses. Some of you guys may have numbers like this right now. So let me show you a new way. So this is the offer that we changed it to. So rather than 1,000 down, 1,000 a month, we said it's 4K down, one-time setup, no monthly fee, and only pay me when people show up. We'll run the ads for you, and we had an implied guarantee because if no one showed up, you wouldn't have to pay us ever again. Obviously, we're invested in getting paid again. We prefer to get paid. And so we will try and get as many people to show up as humanly possible. Cool. Simple. So same initial stuff. Spend $10,000, same number of impressions, 300,000. But 2.5 times the response rate. That's more number one. Now, because of that response rate, the actual percentage stayed the same. Now we got 100, though, appointments booked rather than 40, and our show rate remained the same. So now we have 75 appointments versus 30. We would already call this a win, would you not? This would be a win. In your business, 2.5x, cool. But then we got more because we closed 2.3 times more people who got on the phone than we were before. Well, we already had 2.5 times more people. More, second more. So we went from 5 sales for $10,000 to 28 sales for $10,000. More money good. And the price point up front went from $1,000 to $4,000. So we have 2.5 times the response rate, 2.3x the close rate at 4 times the price, which resulted in $112,000 in cash collected up front from that $10,000, which is 11.2 to 1, which from a comparison standpoint was 22 times as effective. Just the offer. Didn't change anything else. And so I say this to demonstrate one thing, which is that right now, most of you could dramatically improve your offer and make a fuckload more money. Cool? Fantastic. So if you went from whatever you convince yourself you're okay with to 10 times better ROAS, would that be interesting to you? Fantastic. All right, so this is what you will get from this presentation. This is the stuff you will learn if you actually do something as a result. Number 1, more leads for the same price. 2, more sales for the same call volume. 3, more money for the same stuff. So, natural question is how? So I'll spend the rest of this preso doing my best, damnedest, to explain it. All right, so nail number 1. Number 2, why selling to the right people makes you more money. So you want to sell to people who are valuable because of who they are rather than who you are. All right, so let me give you a little example. So who here is familiar with conversion rate optimization, CRO? Anyone heard that term? It's basically people who look at your website and say, we'll change a bunch of doodads, and more people are going to click, more people are going to opt in. Okay, very simple. In the e-com world, it's more common than in the coaching world. No idea why. When I say coaching, I mean services, et cetera. No idea why it is that way, but it is. All right. Now, so let's say you own that, and you work on an e-commerce business that's doing $1 million a year, and you have a 10% increase in throughput, which is very common. It's actually on the low end for most CRO agencies. So you increase that business by $100,000 a year. That's value, right? And you charge $36,000 a year to do that. All right. Cool. You got a 36% of the value that you added. Neat. Now let's say that you did the same exact work on a business that's doing $100 million a year in e-commerce. Get the same 10% increase. You make them $10 million more. Now you can charge the same percentage of the increase, and you make $3.6 million for that one job. Same work, 100 times the pay. Who would like a 100 times pay increase? Yes,